You are a Viking raider. It's 4 in the morning on the 8th of June, 793, and you're lying in a leather sleeping sack on the deck of a ship that has no roof, no cabin, and nowhere to stand up straight. You're soaked. You've been soaked for 2 days. In about 90 minutes, you're going to run up a beach in northern England and accidentally start the Viking Age. But right now, you're mainly thinking about your back. This is what a real raiding day actually looked like, hour by hour, and almost none of it matches the picture in your head. Start with who you actually are. You're not a soldier. There is no Viking army, no uniform, no barracks, no general. Back home, you have a farm. You have barley in the ground, animals that need feeding, and a wife running every bit of it while you're away. Viking isn't your race. In Old Norse, it works more like a verb, something you go and do for a few weeks. You're a farmer who is currently going Viking, the way somebody today might go fishing for a season, and you have to be home before harvest. If you're not, your family starves in the winter. That deadline shapes everything that happens today. 4 in the morning. You crawl out of the sack you've been sharing with another man because body heat is the only heating on this boat. Your legs don't work properly yet. You've been sleeping on a wooden chest. That chest is also your seat. It holds everything you own out here, and when it's time to row, you sit on it and pull. There are no beds on a longship because there's no space for beds. There's no below deck. There's a hull, an open sky, and 30-odd men who have not been dry since Tuesday. Then you do something that would confuse absolutely everyone who's ever been afraid of you. You take out a comb and you do your hair. This is real. Combs are one of the most common objects archaeologists pull out of Viking sites, carved from antler and bone, often carried in their own little cases. You've got tweezers. You might have an ear spoon. An English writer later complained that these men combed their hair every day, changed their clothes regularly, and bathed every Saturday, and that this was frankly unfair competition for local husbands. In Old Norse, Saturday is Laugardir, washing day. The word survives in Scandinavian languages to this day. The most feared men in Europe were, by the standards of medieval Europe, suspiciously well-groomed. Now the helmet. You don't have horns on it. Nobody does. Not one horned helmet has ever been found in a Viking grave, and there's a reason for that. Horns on a helmet are a handle. You're giving your enemy something to grab in a shoving match where everyone is packed shoulder to shoulder. In fact, we've only ever found one complete Viking Age helmet at a farm called Geirmundbu in Norway. It's a plain iron cap with a spectacle-shaped guard over the eyes. No horns anywhere. The horns were invented in 1876 by a costume designer for a Wagner opera. You have been dressing up as a German stage costume your entire life. 5 in the morning, gray light. The mast is down and the sail is stowed because you're rowing the last stretch in. Look at what's actually in your hands. It's probably a spear, not a sword. Swords are expensive, and a good one costs about what a small herd of cattle costs, so swords belong to the men with land and reputation. You have a spear, a knife called a seax that does everything from fighting to eating. Maybe an axe, which is useful partly because you already own one for chopping wood. And a shield, round, about 1 meter across, made of thin planks of linden wood with an iron boss in the middle to protect your fist. It is not a wall. It's light, it's designed to be moved, and it will not survive many serious hits. Mail armor? Almost certainly not. Mail takes months to make, ring by ring. If you're wearing it, you're the man everyone else is following. Now the ship, because the ship is the entire reason any of this works. Your longship is maybe 23 meters long, and the important number isn't the length. It's the depth. It draws about 1 meter of water. 1 meter. That means it doesn't need a harbor, doesn't need a dock, doesn't need permission. It can be rowed up a shallow river far inland, and it can be driven straight onto a beach so you step off into knee-deep water already holding your spear. Every other power in Europe at this moment builds its defenses around ports and walls. You have a boat that ignores both. 6 in the morning, and you can see the island now. There's a monastery on it. That's not an accident, and this is the part that makes people uncomfortable. A monastery in 793 is essentially an undefended bank. It holds silver, gold-covered book bindings, ornaments, and food stores. It sits right on the coast because monks like isolation. And it has no soldiers, because for 200 years, nobody in this part of the world has attacked a church. It's protected by a belief that you personally do not share. You are about to disprove that belief in roughly 4 minutes. The keel touches sand. And here's the thing about a raid that films get completely wrong. Speed matters far more than fighting does. You are not here for a battle. A battle is a disaster. If it turns into a real fight, you lose men you cannot replace, hundreds of miles from home, with no reinforcements coming and no hospital anywhere on Earth. The whole method is to arrive before anyone can organize, take everything portable, and be gone before the local lord can gather men. In and out before the message even reaches the people who could stop you. 7 o'clock. It's over almost as fast as it started. A scholar named Alcuin, writing to the king afterwards, said that never before had such terror appeared in Britain. He wasn't exaggerating for effect. He genuinely could not process it. Now you start loading, and this is where you learn what the trip was really about. Because the treasure is nice. The treasure is not the business. You're carrying silver back to the ship, and a lot of it you'll deliberately chop into pieces. Hack silver. Out here, silver isn't coins with a king's face that people trust. It's a weight of metal, and half of Scandinavia is walking around with a tiny folding scale to check it. Some of the coins that ended up buried in Sweden were minted thousands of kilometers away in the Islamic world, carried up the rivers of what's now Russia. You are one very small part of a trade network that stretches from here to Baghdad. But the silver is the second most valuable thing on this beach. The most valuable thing is people. This is the part that gets left out of the helmet and longship version of the story. Raiders took captives, and captives were sold. The word is thrall. A thrall had no legal standing, could be bought and sold, and the profits from that trade helped build the towns you might otherwise think of as charming trading posts. Dublin, founded by Norse settlers, became one of the busiest slave markets in Western Europe. That's the economy. The ships and the axes are just the delivery system. Midday. The tide is the only clock that matters now, and the tide does not negotiate. Load too slowly and your ship is sitting on wet sand, motionless, in hostile territory, which is the single worst place a raider can be. So you make choices fast. Heavy things get left. You take what has value per kilo. Then you push off and the adrenaline drains out, and the day changes completely. Mid-afternoon. Now you row. For hours. Into wind if you're unlucky. Taking water over the side, bailing in shifts, eating dried fish that's been described by people who tried it as closer to chewing rope than eating food. There's flatbread, maybe onions, sour milk, and beer, because beer keeps and water in a barrel goes bad in days. And now the wounds start to matter. Because here's what actually killed raiders, and it isn't a hero's death in a shield wall. It's a cut on the forearm from 3 hours ago. There are no antibiotics, there's no understanding of infection at all. A wound that looks like nothing today can kill you in a week, slowly, in an open boat, days from land, while your friends take turns rowing your share. You believe that if you die with a weapon in your hand, you go somewhere better. Half the war dead to Odin, half to the goddess Freya. It is worth asking honestly whether that belief was a cause of the courage or something people needed in order to keep getting back into the boat. Evening. The light goes orange and low. Someone counts the take, and it gets divided by an agreed share. More for the man who owns the ship, more for the man who led. And then, on a wet plank, in a boat with no roof, you sleep. Now the part nobody puts on the poster. You go home, not to a fortress, to a longhouse with a fire in the middle, smoke in the roof, and animals at one end for warmth. You put the silver away, and then within days you pick up a scythe because it's late summer and the barley is ready and none of it cuts itself. That's the twist in the whole story. The most terrifying men in Europe were, for most of the year, agricultural laborers. The raid was a season. Farming was the life. That's not a joke at their expense. It's the actual scale of the thing. It took a few weeks, a year of part-time violence from a few thousand farmers to reshape the map of Europe for 3 centuries. So could you have done it? You'd need to row for 12 hours, sleep soaked, eat rope, and be entirely at peace with what happens on that beach at 6 in the morning. And then, on a wooden chest in the dark with blood still under your fingernails, you'd take out that little antler comb and you'd do your hair.